The boy who smelled like winter. I just can't control myself, his mind, that's all I want. If skin could tell stories, his would whisper of snow and glass. Fragile, unyielding, and cold enough to cut. That was the first thought that struck me when I saw him. Not the kind of thought you expect to have about a stranger at 9 p.m. on a rainy soul night. When your sneakers are squelching with water, your hoodie feels like it's been baptized by the Han River, and your backpack strap is digging into your shoulder like it has a personal grudge. But there he was. He leaned against a concrete pillar on a nearly empty subway platform, umbrella dripping by his side. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered, staining the edges of his pale face with static shadows. His hair, damp, black, clung to his forehead in loose strands, like brushstrokes on paper. His clothes were simple, a white shirt under a thin jacket, jeans, sneakers. Normal, completely ordinary. And yet, he didn't look ordinary. Not all. It wasn't just the pallor of his skin, so pale it seemed to glow faintly beneath the harsh lights. It wasn't just the stillness of his posture, so unlike the rest of the commuters who shuffled impatiently, tapping their phones or muttering at the late train. No, it was his eyes, because when they lifted, dark, sharp, unsettling, they landed directly on me. For half a second, my lungs forgot their job. The crowd was loud. The rain hammered against the tracks, but everything stilled under that gaze. Not cold exactly, but piercing, like the air on a winter morning when you breathe too hard and your chest aches. Then he spoke. "You'll need this more than I do." It took me a moment to realize he was talking to me. Even longer to notice the umbrella he was holding out. "What?" My voice cracked embarrassingly, which only made me clear my throat and try again. "Wait, you mean me?" He tilted his head slightly, as though the question itself puzzled him. "You're soaked." I glanced down at myself. Okay, fair point. My hoodie was clinging like a second skin, my jeans heavy with water, my sneakers making wet squeaks with every shift of my feet. I must have looked like some half-drowned stray dog. But still, I frowned at him, trying to keep my tone casual. "Are you seriously giving your umbrella to a stranger?" A shadow of something, almost a smile, but too faint, crossed his lips. "You look like you'd drown without it." My chest did a weird thing then, like it hiccuped. I covered it with an awkward laugh. "That's poetic, I guess. But what about you?" "I'll manage." He didn't sound like he was trying to be noble or dramatic. Just calm, matter of fact, as though my drowning was more inconvenient to him than his getting wet. I hesitated, then reached out. When my hand brushed his, my skin jolted. His was cold. Not the kind of cold from the rain, but something deeper. The kind that seeps into you like frost. Thanks," I muttered, clutching the umbrella. "You're kinder than you look." That flicker again, in his expression, then gone. He turned his gaze away, back to the tracks, as though our interaction was already finished. The train screeched into the station, drowning any chance at follow-up. The tide of commuters surged, and I was pulled inside with them. I twisted around for one last look at him, but he had stepped into a different car. And yet, just before the doors closed, our eyes met again. Brief, deliberate, and in that moment, I swore there was recognition in them, which made no sense, because I had never seen him before in my life. The umbrella sat on my desk all night, dripping faint puddles onto my notes. I should have left it in the corner, forgotten it, like any other passing kindness from a stranger. But every time I tried to focus on my literature assignment, my gaze drifted back to it. It wasn't just an umbrella. It was a question mark. Who was he? And why, when I closed my eyes, did his face feel so familiar? The next morning, the sky had cleared, but the city streets still smelled of rain. Wet asphalt, damp leaves, faint ozone. I hurried across campus, coffee in one hand, bag slung over my shoulder. By the time I slipped into my literature lecture hall, the professor had already started droning about romanticism. I muttered an apology and headed for the only empty seat near the back, and froze, because the seat was next to him, the umbrella boy. He was there, head bent over his notebook, black hair falling forward. The pale line of his jaw caught the light. He didn't look up as I slid reluctantly into the seat beside him, heart beating like a drum. Coincidence? Maybe, but my gut said otherwise. I risked a glance at him. Up close, he was sharper, more defined. His eyelashes were too long for someone with such a serious expression. His hands, slender, pale, moved across the notebook with neat, controlled strokes. And then, as though he felt my gaze, his eyes lifted. I nearly spilled my coffee. Hi, I whispered, leaning slightly toward him. So, we meet again. A pause. Then, quietly, seems so. His voice was the same as last night. Low, steady, a touch too calm. Thanks for the umbrella, I said, forcing a grin. I didn't drown, so mission accomplished. His lips quirked. Barely. Good. I waited for more, but he went back to his notes. My smile wobbled. Okay, fine. If he wanted to play the mysterious stranger card, I could roll with that. But curiosity was eating me alive. So, I tried again, keeping my tone light. Are you always this generous to half-drowned students? Or am I just special? This time his pen stilled. Slowly, he turned to me. His gaze locked onto mine with unsettling precision. You are special, he said. The words weren't playful. They weren't teasing. They were heavy, weighted with something I couldn't name. My breath caught. What do you mean? He blinked, the intensity fading as quickly as it had come. Nothing. Forget it. No way was I forgetting that. But before I could press, the professor clapped his hands. Pair project, everyone. You and your seatmate will be working together on a presentation. Theme: unforgettable memories. Of course. Just my luck. I groaned under my breath. Guess we're partners. He gave me a sidelong look. Seems so. Something about the way he said it, calm, almost resigned, sent a chill down my spine. We spent the next hour exchanging stiff introductions. Han Jiwon, I said, scribbling my name across the top of our shared notes page. Third year. Literature major. Addicted to iced Americanos. Your turn. He hesitated, then wrote in neat handwriting. C.O. Min Jae. C.O. Min Jae. I repeated, tasting the name. It sounded familiar. Uncomfortably so. I frowned. Have we met before? His pen paused mid-stroke. For a fraction of a second, something flickered across his face. Surprise? Pain? Then he smoothed it away. No, he said simply, but his eyes told a different story. When class ended, I shoved my notes into my bag and turned to him. Hey, Min Jae, want to grab coffee? We can talk about the project. He shook his head. I can't. Not today. I tried not to sound disappointed. Another time, then. He hesitated, then nodded once. Another time. I watched him walk away, that strange stillness surrounding him like a cloak. And just when I thought I'd lost him in the crowd, he glanced back at me. His lips moved, almost too soft to hear. See you, Jiwon. My body froze, because I hadn't told him my name. The words bounced around inside my skull as the crowd swallowed him. See you, Jiwon. No one could have told him. The professor had called the roll before I walked in, and I hadn't introduced myself until after I sat beside him. I stared down the corridor where he'd vanished, the noise of students and the squeak of wet shoes turning muffled, almost unreal. Maybe I'd misheard. Maybe he'd guessed. Seoul was full of Han Jiwons. Probably half my class shared the name. That was it. Coincidence. Except, in the pit of my stomach, something whispered that it wasn't. That evening, the umbrella he'd given me sat propped beside my desk, its black fabric neatly folded, a faint scent of rain still clinging to it. I should have left it somewhere, maybe returned it to the lost and found like a normal person. Instead, I kept glancing at it while pretending to type my project notes. Our assigned theme echoed on my screen in the professor's neat font. Unforgettable memories. The irony wasn't lost on me. My phone buzzed. Group chat. Friends planning karaoke. I typed maybe next time and stared again at the umbrella. Against my better judgment, my fingers found my search bar. C.O. Min Jae, Hanguk University Literature Department. Nothing. Not even a photo. Either he was new, or he had scrubbed himself clean off the internet. A shiver crawled up my arms. I told myself to sleep. The next morning, Seoul decided to make up for the clear skies by turning the air thick and gray again. I arrived on campus early, coffee in one hand, hoping caffeine would silence my thoughts. He was already there. At the back of the library, surrounded by stacks of books, Min Jae sat reading. His posture was straight, precise. One hand rested on the page, the other curled loosely around a pen. He didn't look up when I approached, but his eyes flicked toward me the moment I stopped beside the table. "You found me," he said, not surprised. Stated like fact. Just came to work on the project." He nodded to the chair opposite. "Sit." I sat, heartbeat uneven. "About yesterday, I began," you said my name. "I didn't tell you. So how did?" He closed the book with a quiet thud. "You must have mentioned it." "I didn't." "You're sure?" "Positive." He regarded me for a long time, the silence stretching. Then, softly, "Sometimes people look familiar to me. I confuse them with someone else. If I said your name, it was an accident." It was a reasonable answer. Too reasonable. "Someone else named Jiwon." I pressed. His mouth twitched, half amusement, half something I couldn't read. Maybe. I wanted to believe him. But his gaze lingered again, like it carried the weight of something unsaid. We spent hours combing through poetry collections, jotting notes about memory and loss. Every so often, I glance up and catch him studying me with that same quiet intensity. Not in a creepy way, more like he was comparing me to an image only he could see. At one point he murmured, "Do you ever think memories choose when to return?" I blinked. "What do you mean?" "Some stay buried until the right person digs them up." He looked directly at me when he said person, and the air between us went still. I laughed nervously. "That's deep. Did you just quote a poem?" He smiled faintly. "Maybe." After lunch, the sky broke open again. Rain hammered the windows, turning the library glass into silver. We packed our books, and I followed him out under the overhang. "Guess your umbrella curse continues." I joked, holding up the one he'd lent me. "Keep it," he said. "It suits you." I stared. That's not how umbrellas work. But he was already walking toward the street, rain soaking his jacket. "Hey," I jogged after him, opening the umbrella to cover us both. "You'll get sick." He stopped, glanced at the canopy above us, then at me. For a moment, his expression softened. Something vulnerable, almost grateful. "You didn't have to. Neither did you last night." Our shoulders brushed. The space beneath the umbrella felt impossibly small. His hand twitched at his side, and I wondered if he felt the same strange electricity that danced up my arm. We walked in silence to the station. Just before we parted, he said quietly, "You shouldn't follow people you don't know that well." I try to make it sound like a joke. And yet, here we are. His lips curved slightly. "You remind me of someone reckless. Someone you used to know?" He didn't answer. The train arrived, a rush of air and light, and he disappeared inside. That night, I dreamed of cherry blossoms falling like snow. A child's laughter. Then a boy, pale, dark-haired, turning toward me with a smile I almost recognized before the world went white. I woke up sweating. Over the next few days, the project forced us together. Min-jae remained an enigma, sometimes warm, sometimes distant. We'd trade quiet jokes, then he'd retreat behind that winter calm of his. One afternoon, as we sat by the Han River to brainstorm, I noticed a faint scar along his jawline, the same one I'd glimpsed that first night. "How'd you get that?" I asked. He touched it absently. "Accident. Long time ago. Looks like it hurt." It did. His gaze drifted toward the water. "Some scars stop hurting. Others just learn to hide." Something in his tone made my chest ache. "Which kind is that?" He looked back at me, eyes unreadable. "Ask me when you remember." "Remember what?" But he only smiled, small and secretive. That evening, we reviewed our presentation slides in a quiet classroom. The rest of campus was asleep. Only the hum of rain against the windows kept us company. I stretched, yawning. "We're actually making progress. You might even smile at me, for real someday." Maybe. That's it." He looked at me then, and for once the calm cracked. "You keep asking questions you don't really want the answers to." I froze. "Try me." He closed his laptop slowly, fingers lingering on the lid. "You'd think I was lying." "About what?" "About who you are." A chill ran down my spine. "What's that supposed to mean?" He stood, gathering his things. "Nothing. Forget I said it." Min-jae. I caught his wrist before he could leave. His skin was cold again, but I didn't let go. "You're scaring me." His gaze dropped to where my hand held him, and for a heartbeat neither of us moved. Then he said, Voice barely audible. I don't want to scare you, Jiwon. I just don't want to lose you again. The words hit like thunder. Again, I opened my mouth, but he slipped free, walking out into the hallway before I could speak. I chased him outside, the night air sharp with rain. Min-jae. He was halfway down the steps, jacket pulled tight, when he stopped. Tell me what you mean, I shouted. What do you mean again? He turned, water tracing lines down his face like tears. You really don't remember? Remember what? He hesitated, then whispered, never mind. Lightning flashed, and for an instant the world went white. When my vision cleared, he was gone. Only the echo of his words remained, heavy and impossible to shake. Later, alone in my room, I scrolled through my childhood photos, elementary school, middle school, summer camps. Faces blur by time. Nothing. No sign of him. But that night, when I closed my eyes, the dream returned. The boy beneath the cherry blossoms, smiling through falling petals, whispering something I couldn't hear. And on his wrist, a small scar that matched the one I'd seen today. I woke before dawn, heart pounding, the taste of rain in my mouth. My phone buzzed. One new message from an unknown number. Don't dig too deep, Jiwon. Some memories aren't yours to keep. My breath caught. I stared at the screen until it dimmed, the reflection of my wide eyes staring back. Somewhere beyond the thin apartment walls, the city began to wake, unaware that something old and unfinished had just stirred back to life. The message was still there when dawn dragged its pale fingers across my blinds. Don't dig too deep, Jiwon. Some memories aren't yours to keep. The sender's number was hidden. No profile picture. No trace. I checked it 3 times, hoping it would vanish like a bad dream. It didn't. Coffee didn't help. My stomach twisted every time the phone vibrated. None of the new notifications were from Min-jae. Campus felt strange that morning, too bright, too loud. The rain had washed the streets clean, but the air still smelled like something unsettled. I saw Min-jae across the courtyard, sitting alone on a bench near the literature building. He was sketching in a small notebook, head bent, wind tugging at his hair. For a long moment, I just watched him. He looked peaceful, almost fragile, like the world might break him if it stared too hard. And then he looked up. Our eyes met. His expression flickered, something between relief and guilt, before he stood and walked toward me. You look like you didn't sleep, he said. Funny. I could say the same. He studied me carefully. Something happened. I wanted to tell him about the message, about the unease crawling under my skin. But some instinct made me hold back. Just bad dreams, I said instead. He nodded slowly, as if he already knew. Dreams have long memories. The way he said it made the hair on my arms rise. We met in the library again to continue our project. The topic, unforgettable memories, felt more like a curse now than an assignment. We read lines from Korean poets about time and loss, but my focus kept drifting. Jiwon. I blinked. He was watching me over the edge of his notebook. You keep staring at the window, he said. Are you seeing ghosts? Maybe, I muttered. He set his pen down. Then you're not alone. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. He looked away. Just, if you remember something you don't understand, don't run from it. I frowned. You talk like you know what's coming. He didn't answer. When we finished, I walked him toward the subway. The late autumn sky was heavy, colorless. Min-jae, I said, how long have you been at this university? 2 weeks. Transferred from where? He hesitated. Somewhere you wouldn't know. Try me. His lips curved faintly. Taegu. I stopped walking. I used to live there. I know. The words slipped out of him too easily. My pulse jumped. You know. He looked at me for a heartbeat that felt endless. It's a small world. Then he boarded his train, leaving me with more questions than answers. That night, the dream came again. The same cherry blossoms, the same laughter. This time, I could hear voices, 2 boys running beneath the trees, one shouting, Jiwon, don't look, before a sound like shattering glass. I woke to thunder and the taste of metal on my tongue. When I turned on the light, my phone was lit again. Stop asking about him. You'll regret remembering. My hand shook. Someone was watching. Someone who didn't want me near Min-jae. The next day, I cornered him outside the art studio. Who's sending these messages? I demanded. He stiffened. What messages? I shoved my phone toward him. The color drained from his face as he read. Min-jae, I said quietly, tell me what's going on. Who are they talking about? He closed his eyes for a moment, then opened them with that same winter calm. Delete them. Don't reply. Please. That's not an answer. Because you're asking the wrong question. What's the right one? He took a breath, stepped closer. The scent of paint and rain clung to his clothes. Ask why someone would want you to forget me. My heart slammed against my ribs. Forget you? We just met. He smiled sadly. If only that were true. The wind picked up, scattering leaves across the courtyard. He turned and walked away, his words trailing behind him like smoke. I spent the rest of the afternoon trying to focus on class, but every face in the hallway seemed to watch me. Every vibration in my pocket felt like a threat. After lectures, I went to the library archives, half convinced I'd lost my mind. I searched the student database, old yearbooks, anything. No record of a CO Min-jae in literature. Not this year, not in a year. But buried in a 2008 newspaper clipping from Daegu, I found a story about a house fire. 2 victims, 1 survivor. The surviving child's name had been blacked out in the digital scan, but beside the blurred photo was a small boy with dark hair and a pale face. I knew that face. My hands trembled as I scrolled, but the article cut off halfway through. By the time I stumbled out of the library, night had swallowed the campus. A drizzle began, soft at first, then heavier. The wind tasted like metal again. Someone was waiting by the gate. Min-jae. He stood beneath the streetlight, shadows pooling around his feet. You shouldn't walk alone this late, he said. I tried to sound steady. Then tell me why every time I get close to you, something feels wrong. His eyes softened. Because it is wrong. Lightning flashed. I saw it then, the faint scar on his wrist, identical to the one in my dream. My breath hitched. You were the boy in Daegu. He didn't deny it. I was there too. I whispered. Wasn't I? Yes. His voice broke slightly. We were children. My family worked for yours. The fire, it took everything. And you disappeared. I was sent away. He looked at me, eyes glimmering like wet glass. They told me you'd forgotten. That was better that way. Better for who? For you. Rain poured harder, but neither of us moved. I could feel the weight of years pressing between us, memories clawing their way back through the fog. Why come back now? I asked. Because I promised I would. To who? To the boy who gave me his name. What? He stepped closer until the rain blurred the world around us. You don't remember, do you? When we were kids, you told me if I ever got lost, I could use your name until I found my own again. A chill rippled through me. Ask why someone would want you to forget me. Min-jae, I whispered. What if they weren't warning me about you? What if they were warning you about me? He opened his mouth, but a car horn blared nearby, cutting him off. When I turned toward the noise, he grabbed my wrist. His grip trembled. Don't answer any unknown numbers, he said urgently. And don't walk home alone. Why? Because the fire wasn't an accident. He released me and ran toward the street, vanishing into the curtain of rain. I called his name until my voice broke, but he didn't turn back. When I finally reached my apartment, drenched and shaking, a package waited on my doorstep. No label, no return address. Inside was a single photograph, burned at the edges. 2 boys under cherry blossoms. One smiling, one holding an umbrella too big for his hands. On the back, a message scrawled in neat handwriting. You already knew him once. Don't let history burn twice. I sank onto the floor, photo trembling in my hands. The ink from the burned edges smeared against my fingers, black as ash. Outside, thunder rolled over soul like a memory trying to be heard. The photograph trembled between my fingers long after the thunder faded. 2 boys under cherry blossoms. One smiling shyly, the other half hidden by shadow. The edges curled inward, burnt like a memory refusing to die. The ink on the back still glistened faintly. You already knew him once. Don't let history burn twice. I sat on the table and stared until the room blurred. Somewhere outside, traffic murmured, rain still whispered against the glass. For a moment, I thought I heard laughter, soft, childlike, the echo of a voice calling my name. By morning, the world felt brittle. I carried the photo in my bag all through class, unable to shake the weight of it. Every corridor seemed to whisper. Every shadow stretched too long. Min-jae didn't show up for lecture. His seat near the window stayed empty, sunlight pooling on the desk like a spotlight on a ghost. At lunch, I texted him, "Are you okay?" No reply. Another text, then a call. Both unanswered. By evening, worry had hardened into something sharp. I left campus and headed toward the art district, following half-remembered directions to a studio he once mentioned. The sky was turning orange, streaked with the color of fading fire. The building was small, wedged between a bookshop and an old tea house. A sign read Gallery 27. Inside, the air smelled faintly of turpentine and rain. I pushed the door open. Paintings lined the walls, scenes of soul streets, rivers, cherry blossoms. But they weren't ordinary. Each canvas shimmered with something unsettling, like light caught in a memory. In the corner, half covered by a sheet, was a portrait. My breath caught. It was me. Not the me of now, but a younger version, maybe 12 or 13, smiling beside a boy with dark hair. Jiwon. I turned. Min-jae stood near the back door, paint smudged across his wrist. His eyes were tired, ringed with sleeplessness, but there was relief in them too. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. I could say the same. "You disappeared." I had to. Because of the messages? He hesitated. Because of the truth behind them. I stepped closer. "Then tell me. Please." He looked at the portrait. "You painted that," he murmured. "What?" "When we were kids. After the accident, you used to paint every day. The doctors said it helped you cope. You painted us under the blossoms." I found the canvas years later, half-burned. My chest tightened. "The fire." He nodded. "It wasn't an accident. Someone tried to erase us. To erase what we knew. What could we possibly have known?" He met my eyes. "A secret my family was keeping for yours. Something about money, inheritance. I don't even remember all of it. But they made sure the children forgot." I swallowed hard. But I didn't forget completely. "No," he said softly. "You remembered me." The silence between us thickened. The rain had started again, tapping gently against the gallery windows. He stepped closer, slowly, as if testing the air. "Every night since I saw you again," he said, "I've wondered if I should have stayed hidden. You deserve peace, not more ghosts." "I'd rather know the ghost than live blind," I whispered. He smiled faintly, sadness curling at the edges. "You haven't changed, and you still talk like the world's ending tomorrow." "Maybe it already did," he said. For a heartbeat, the distance between us vanished. The scent of paint and rain mingled with something warm and human. My pulse stuttered. He reached up, almost hesitantly, to brush a wet strand of hair from my forehead. His touch lingered, light, trembling, as though he feared I'd fade if he let go. "You're real," he murmured. "So are you," I said. "For now." His eyes searched mine, full of memories neither of us completely owned. A noise broke the stillness, the creak of the back door. Min-jae spun around, instinctively stepping in front of me. "Stay here," he whispered. He moved toward the sound, cautious, silent. I followed a few steps behind, despite his warning. Outside the back door, the alley was empty except for a small envelope taped to the wall. Min-jae peeled it off and opened it. His face paled. "What is it?" I asked. He handed me a folded piece of paper. Inside was another photograph, this one recent. It showed the two of us in the library from last week, taken from a distance. "You were supposed to forget." A chill ran through me. "They're watching us." Minji's hands trembled. "Then it's starting again." We locked the gallery and hurried down the street, rain following like footsteps. At a crosswalk, he suddenly grabbed my hand. His palm was cold, but the pressure was steady, grounding. "Promise me something," he said. "What?" "If they come for me again, don't try to save me." I stopped walking. "No, Jiwon. I lost you once in a fire. I'm not losing you in the dark." His expression softened with something like pain. "You really haven't changed, and you still underestimate how stubborn I am." For a second, despite everything, he laughed. The sound was small, shaky, but it was real. We reached my apartment, just as lightning split the sky. I turned on the lights. He shut the curtains. The air between us buzzed with exhaustion and tension too thick to name. He sat on the edge of the couch, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. I kept telling myself it was coincidence. Seeing you again. The dreams. The memories. But it's not. No, I said. It's something trying to pull us back. He looked up. Then maybe we need to stop running. What do you mean? Go back to Taegu. The words hit like thunder. You want to go back there? That's where it started. And where it'll end. Silence stretched between us, heavy with things we hadn't said. Finally, I nodded. Okay. Min Jae exhaled, as if he hadn't expected me to agree. The clock ticked. The rain softened. For a moment, we just sat there, breathing in the same uncertain rhythm. He looked at me then, really looked, and something in his gaze shifted, tender and afraid all at once. If this ends badly, he said, I'm glad I got to see you like this again. Alive. I teased softly. He smiled. Alive and still you. I wanted to tell him everything my chest couldn't contain, the flashes of memory, the fear, the pull I couldn't name, but the words tangled on my tongue. Instead, I reached for his hand. He didn't pull away. Our fingers intertwined, quiet and certain. Outside, the rain eased to a whisper. For a brief second, it felt like the world was holding its breath. Later that night, I couldn't sleep. The photo on the table seemed to glow faintly under the streetlight. I turned it over again, tracing the handwriting. Don't let history burn twice. A thought struck me. The edges of the photo, the pattern of the burn marks. They weren't random. They formed a shape. A map. Taegu. When I looked up, Min Jae was standing by the window, watching the city lights. His reflection was pale against the glass. Tomorrow, I said quietly. We go back. He turned, eyes steady but shadowed. Together. Always. He nodded once. Then, softly, then maybe we'll finally remember what the fire tried to erase. The city outside flickered. A train horn echoed in the distance. I couldn't tell if the tremor in my chest was fear or something gentler, something I didn't yet have the courage to name. Whatever waited for us in Taegu, I knew one thing for certain. This time, I wouldn't run, and neither would he.